friends. He's my best friend. So regardless of what happens throughout the rest of our lives, I know that when I see him in heaven, I'm going to at least give him a hug and I'm going to say hello because I like him as a person. And I'm going to, he makes me laugh, so I'm sure we'll have fun together there. But at the same time, if maybe I didn't have the connection I did, it doesn't mean that I'm still not going to appreciate the role that they played in my life. It just means you don't associate with them, and that's okay. But when you are struggling through life, as we all do, and you're thinking, what the heck, nothing's going right, just take comfort in knowing the person you are now has been shaped by a multitude of lifetimes. There are very few people that only come down here once, and it is a choice to continue to reincarnate again. It's definitely 100% a choice of yours to come down again, to reincarnate for God, to learn. But chances are you've lived a multitude of lifetimes, and your personality is shaped by that. So your tastes in food, your interest in history, your love of sports, all comes from the accumulation of all your lifetimes together. I grew up in California, but I have always loved Mexican food with a passion I can't explain. My comfort food is definitely anything Mexican. Rice and beans hook me up, but I've been like this my entire life. And even though I'm sure that I ate my fair share of Mexican food when I was younger, my parents, we ate everything. It wasn't, we didn't live in Mexico. But I've had this connection to the food. Is it because we lived in California? Sure. But it was also because I'm sure I've had lifetimes where I've eaten that kind of cuisine. Likewise, if you can't get enough of Korean food, you've probably spent at least one time in Korea. If there's a dish that you love that no one else does in your family, or if there's an interest that you have that just seems so out of range for the way you've grown up or the way you've held yourself, chances are that's something from another lifetime popping up. And it may not happen until later. It's not like all of this stuff has to happen when you are a child. So there's a concept called cell memory that states that we carry our memories from past lives with us subconsciously. And it may not happen until a certain event in a past life happened. So, for instance, if you were stabbed at the age of 30 in your calf, then in this lifetime, if you suddenly develop a weird pain in your calf at 30, it could be your body reliving a past life and going through that pain again. Now, you're feeling a physical pain, but it's still very much manifesting as a physical pain, even though it may be from a past life. Now, I'm not saying this is always the case, and you need to always get checked out of pain and any illness. So please, this is not an excuse to not go to the doctor and get things checked out. However, it is uncanny how many illnesses start at certain times of people's lives because of something that happened in a past life. If you develop asthma at the age of 25, perhaps something happened in a past life where you found it hard to breathe at the age of 25. The same thing goes with fears, and I'm going to reference a friend of mine that just talked to me yesterday, and I didn't even touch on this with her, but if you have a fear of, for instance, she talked about someone that has a fear of bridges. He cannot go over a bridge. Well, there's obviously something that is stuck from a past life that he still in his subconscious cannot release. And so it's translating into this fear of bridges. If you have a fear of heights, perhaps you've fallen. And I know all of this seems really, it can be silly. And you can look at this and go, I have fears because, I don't want to leave my family, or you can reason it out in a very psychological way. And I believe me, I very much do before I turn to the whole, oh, it might be a past life thing. This is definitely not something I turn to when immediately I have a fear or a problem or an illness. But it may be something else to consider if you feel like you're stuck with either a fear or an illness that you can't get past, something that your body is not, fighting. Autoimmune diseases are a really interesting concept because autoimmune disease is where your body is actually attacking itself. It's interesting what that can translate to on a cellular level and on a subconscious level. What has happened in the past? Again, I'm not saying that autoimmune diseases are caused by past lives. They can be caused by stress, etc. They can be caused just because you're standing there, etc., etc. This is no excuse to not go to the doctor. I will say that 100 times if I've said it once. But it could give you some clarity if all of a sudden your body starts to go a little haywire and you're not able to find a solution. Random pains. Try everything first. I actually live very clean. Because I myself have 2 autoimmune disorders. I have celiac, so I cannot eat gluten, which absolutely sucks because I love bread and pasta and all that stuff. But I choose to not include sugar in my diet or dairy. I try to eat very clean because of what I have. But also, I know that I feel better, but think about another idea for why you may be getting sick or having random pains, and maybe just the thought and meditating on it. If you think that this may be past life related, what I would suggest to you is really start meditating on it and thinking about it. You can ask your body to release past life trauma before you go to sleep. You can ask your body to release it. You can ask your guides for help. You can ask your guides for healing. Ask your guides or your past loved ones to help you find solutions for the pains you're in. Ask them to lead you to the right doctors. These are all things that you can do to help manifest healing now. Or simply sometimes, and I've heard of this happening, sometimes just acknowledging a past life trauma and acknowledging that the pain you are in is happening from a past life, sometimes can release that pain. Check with your doctor, find a therapist. This is no substitute for medical treatment whatsoever. It's just something else when you're going to sleep to think about if you've had maybe just random things happen and you've gone to all these doctors. I know there was 1 year of my life not too long ago, and it was before I was diagnosed with celiac, where I was going to the ER every month for stomach pain, and I had 2 endoscopies that did not find the celiac. All of this stuff. I went through a year of horrible pain, and I kept going to the doctor. I didn't say, I didn't chalk it up to a past life. I said, I'm going to continue to go to the doctor, and it turns out I am celiac. But it also came from, and I truly believe this, came from really asking for help and asking my guides and asking the universe for help to reach that conclusion for me. And oddly enough, finding out I was celiac came from my husband, the most realistic, down-to-earth, rational person, who one day looked at me and said, I really think this is celiac. Stop eating bread and stop eating gluten for 6 weeks because I have this feeling. And this was after a year and 2 endoscopy tests for it. And one day my husband randomly said, I really think it's gluten. And it turned out to be, after getting confirmed from the doctor. But I didn't just chalk it up to a past life, because even if it is past life trauma, you still have to work through it here. You still have to go to the right doctors. It just gives you more clarity and maybe lessens that anxiety you're having for what, overall what's causing it. And no, I have to say this, you're not experiencing pain because of karma, or you're not getting sick because of karma. And no, it's not because you're a bad person. We plan illnesses and pain in our life to learn from. So please don't chalk it up to you being a bad person. And also, let's get this out of the way as well. There is no hell. There is absolutely zero hell or damnation. Our creators did not create a hell. There is zero hell except for the ones that we create on earth. Earth is the real hell. There's so much pain here. There's so much suffering in the world and in our lives. This is the real hell. There is no fire and brimstone after this. So please don't guilt yourself into worrying that you are going down the wrong path. Now, this is not an excuse to go and do something stupid or do something horrible, because there's other solutions for how souls like that work out with people that do horrible things. So please don't think that I am excusing anyone's behavior here, only that there is no hell, that we create it. And there are people in this world that come down here that have turned away from God, that are causing chaos and pain and strife. And those are the true quote unquote evil ones. And they are horrible people. And those people, instead of going to heaven or hell, they continue to get reincarnated. That's their punishment. And this is all what I learned from Sylvia Browne. So look this up. And it's not just Sylvia Browne who had this idea of people that were truly evil, Hitler, other people like that have done horrible things that they don't know. You're not going to see them. But there are very special circumstances, and that is why it's easier just to think of just no hell. And also, there's exclusions for suicides. Suicides are a different animal, and I've touched on this before. Suicides are a different animal entirely, depending on if you kill yourself because you're trying to hurt other people, or whether it is true mental illness. There are differences in that. So, for instance, if someone purposely killed themselves, so their wife found them, hanging there, or their daughter found them, and they were just malicious and jerky, then they're going to reincarnate, because you signed a contract with God to come down here, and you will fulfill that contract if it takes you 1 life or 5 lives, but you will fulfill your contract. On the other hand, if someone kills themselves and there's true mental illness, true mental illness behind it, then that is a different situation. But that's all for God to handle, not me, not you, and it's not for anyone to worry about. But it is why, with certain exceptions, sometimes I cannot sense suicides. And those are the only people I've never really been able to reach, unfortunately. But overall, the person you are here, the friends you have here, are the friends you're going to have at home. And you are still you. You hear my cat meowing. I love animals. I will continue to love animals, passing on, and I will reunite with all of my animals when I get home. And they are at the same place we are. Your pets are all there, living happily in their own heaven, in their own existence. Perfect, happy, healthy